Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin Le'ira Online Smicha. Everybody knows about the Isser of Sheichad. Sheichad means taking a bribe. Now there's an interesting Gemara, the Gemara Masechta Ksubis Daf Kufei Amud Beis. The Gemara says, Amar Rava, my time at the Sheichda, what's the reason you're not allowed to take Sheichad? Says the Gemara, Kivim the Kabbaleh Sheichda Minei, because once a person takes a bribe, Ikriv Le Daite Gabe, he becomes very close to the person who gave him the bribe. V'havi kegufei, and they become as one. And since they become as one, ein adam roya chayv alatzmei. Just like a person always overlooks anything negative about himself, when you took a bribe from somebody else, you became like that person. You'll never see anything negative with that person. So therefore, a judge is never allowed to take a bribe. There is a very interesting shaila that it's brought in Shalos Tshuvas Chaves Yor Simin Kuf Lamed Vav, and it's actually brought in Pischei Tshuva in Choshen Mishpat. Over there, somebody asked him. The Shiloh was actually was asked to his brother-in-law, Rabbi Itzik Brilin, who was Av Bezdin in a big city, and one of the local Goyish officials asked Rabbi Itzik this Shiloh. If a Yid has a court case by a Goy, the fact is that you see that a lot of people, when the court system is not picture perfect, everybody uses every trick in the game to find a way how he wins. And some people slip in a couple extra dollars to the judge. Why is it that we find people do that? Is there a Isser of Sheichad, of giving bribery to a Goyish judge, and somehow it became, to smear people, became a heter. And why is it a problem? Because since in Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, one of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach is dinim, is the court of law. If you are going to slip in a couple of dollars and the judge will paskin wrong, what you're doing is you're being oivel if ne'ivel sit in the michshol, on the fact that you're not allowing the goy to fulfill his commandment of dinim. This was the question. As I said, that the Chavis Yor discusses, and there was this again. There was a government official that asked the Rav, the Rabbi Itzik Brilin, why are people doing this? Every person knows that it's not moral. Every person knows that it's against religion. And people somehow overlook it because it's done still the hate, the seser, but it's wrong. So the answer that was given to this government official is, first of all, we are not in any way approving this type of behavior. Giving bribes, even to a Goyish judge, is wrong, even though it doesn't say clearly in the Torah, but it definitely doesn't do anything for the Tikkun HaMedina, for law and order. It obviously doesn't help. And just like in all mitzvahs sichlius, all mitzvahs that are understanding, like ritzicha, gzeila, gneva, everybody knows that you can't bend the rule. So this is also something that it makes sense, that if somebody's going to paskin wrong because of a bribe, it's intellectually wrong, not only al pi Torah. Nevertheless, Reb Itzik, the one who got the shaila, he said, I'll give you 3 reasons why people do it, and maybe it's not the end of the world. Number 1, again, why the Kalei Das do it. Number 1, when a Yid is brought to court, to a Goyish court, either the Yid is trying to collect money from the Goy, and the Goy is denying it, or the Goy is claiming that a Yid owes money that he claims the Yid is defending himself, it never happened, I don't owe him a penny. Now, this Yid knows that when he goes to court, he's already 1 foot behind. The judge will not believe him. So therefore, by giving the bribe, he's not necessarily bribing for a wrong lie verdict. He's giving the bribe so the verdict should be just. Because what's happening to him is cruel. What's happening to him is a lie. So he's actually trying to prevent a unjust decision. So maybe that's the reason why, because the guy automatically the Goyish shofet doesn't believe him, so he has to do what it takes to get a real verdict. That's one svara he gives. Another svara he gives, it makes sense that if a person gives shaykhad, not so the verdict should be corrupted. It should only, the shaykhad, the bribery is because since the court system is in the third world country or whatever, and that's how the system works. So if I know that my opponent is a guy smearing the judge, I got to be stupid not doing the same thing. I'm just protecting myself against the way how the system works over there. So when it's only one-sided, then you're right, you're wrong. But if things are going to be taken away from me illegally because my opponent smeared, then the Rabbi Itzik Bril and Paskin, maybe then it's not wrong to also do the same what your opponent did. And then he gives a third reason. He's basically saying there is no greater hatred between people than a hatred between religions, and the Yid automatically starts off with 1 foot behind. So to have a fair playing ground, he's not asking for a lie verdict, just that it should be a fair playing ground. He wants to balance it out. So maybe those are the reasons why, again, the Kalei Das do it. It's not necessarily moral, it's not Yosher, but this is something that, again, Shaykhad is specifically something that the Torah asks for a Yid. The Torah didn't ask it for a Goy clearly. Is it wrong? It seems to be wrong because it's against Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. But why people do it? So he gave these three Hezberim. Now, the Chavas Das also goes on to discuss another point. Why did the Torah speak about only taking the shaykhad, for the judge taking? Why didn't the Torah also discuss about giving shaykhad? It's similar to how it is by ribis. You're not allowed to charge ribis and you're not allowed to give ribis. Now this is a discussion, a big discussion with the Chavas Das, the Tumim, in Choshen Mishpat Siman Tes Sifkat Nalef, also goes on this topic if you're allowed to give a goyish judge bribery. The Minchas Chinuch and Mitzvah Pei Gimel Eis Hey also has what to say about this, and he connects it to the Ramban in the story of Yaakov and his sons Shechem. Yaakov and his sons who killed Shechem and Chamor Aviv b'mirma. So the Ramban says, how are the tzaddikim, how are the Bnei Yaakov allowed to do this? And the Ramban in that conversation says, maybe they felt that the Balei Shechem deserved death because they didn't judge Shechem for his actions. And because Bnei Noach and Metzuva al Dinim, so that's why they felt they'll kick into that, take action. But anyways, this topic, whether a judge could take shaykhad, as I told you, is a Chavas Yoyer, a big talk in Minchas Chinuch, a big talk in Tumim, whether it works. An interesting last point I want to make. The Gemara Ksubas Daf Pehei Amud Aleph says a situation where money might be able to be slipped in. The Gemara talks about in Ksubas Daf Pehei Amud Beis, a person says, Nechasai L'Tuvia, I want to leave over all my belongings to a person called Tuvia. Now, and he passes away, and we don't know which Tuvia he meant. 2 Tuvias came to say, it's me. So the Gemara goes through a list of who most probably he meant. If it was one was a relative, and one was a Talmud Chacham, one was a neighbor, but then the Gemara is stuck with a question. How about if the 2 Tuvias are both relatives, both neighbors, and both Talmid Chachamim? And each one says it was for me. Who do they give to? So the Gemara says, Shuda de Daina. So what does Shuda de Daina mean? This is a big machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos. Rashi says Shuda de Daina means that the Dayanim should the Dayanim should appraise the situation, evaluate the situation, take all the references about these two people and see, let them dig into the mind of the person and say, who do they think he would have given it to, the A or B? That's what Rashi learns pshat. Tosfos says, no, that's not what Shudar Dayanim means. Shudar Dayanim means the Dayanim give it whoever he wants to give it. It's his decision to give to whoever he wants to give it. And there's a lumdus here. Is it mitzad hefker, bezin hefker, or whatever it is? But Tosfos indirectly over there mentions a point. And Tosfos says, if the dying could, no questions asked, decide for no reason it's A or B, that's very smart for one, two of you to slip in a check and say, make sure I get it. Because over there's a machlokes. Since it's not a question of a din, it's a question of shoulda the daina, it's solely the decision of the dayan, without questions asked. Over there, according to some opinions, bribery would work.